Revolutions that influenced the world. What are the major factors that stimulated earlier revolutions in the world? Renaissance. The American War of Independence. The British treated the American colonies as centers for collecting raw materials for their industry, and as market for selling their products. Causes of the American War of Independence. Tax policies of England. Mercantilist laws. Thinkers and their ideologies. Tax policies of England. The British collect tax from 13 American colonies according to their needs. But the colonies had no representation in government. No taxation without representation. This slogan was raised by the people of America as part of a powerful agitation. Mercantilist laws. Policy implemented by the British merchants with the help of their motherland in the American colonies, is known as mercantilism. Mercantilist laws. Main principles of mercantilism. Mercantilist laws. The goods to and from the colonies must be carried only in British ships or ships built in the British colonies. Products of the colonies like sugar, wool, cotton, tobacco, etc. could only be exported to England. British stamp must be affixed on all the legal documents, newspapers, pamphlets, license, etc. Colonies must provide food and quarters for the British troops which were maintained in the colonies. Import tax must be paid for the import of tea, glass, paper, etc. Thinkers and their ideologies. James Otis. No taxation without representation. John Locke. Everyone has some fundamental rights. No government has the right to suspend them. Thomas Paine. There is something absurd in supposing a continent, North America, be perpetually governed by a foreign power, England. Important incidents of the American War of Independence. Boston Tea Party on December 16, 1773. Beginning of the war. The delegates of all the colonies except Georgia met at Philadelphia in 1774 to protest against the policies and rules imposed by England. It is known as the First Continental Congress. The colonies submitted a petition to the King of England. They demanded the revocation of the regulations enforced on industry and commerce and not to impose tax without the approval of the people. The Second Continental Congress held at Philadelphia in 1775 elected George Washington as the Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. Through the pamphlet titled Common Sense, Thomas Paine declared that it was wise for the Americans to break the ties with Britain. The American Continental Congress issued the famous Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776. The declaration was prepared by Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin. The war between England and the colonies in North America that began with the Declaration of Freedom ended in 1781. According to the Treaty of Paris in 1783, England ratified the freedom of 13 colonies. The Constitution Convention held at Philadelphia under the leadership of James Madison framed the American Constitution. George Washington became the first President of the United States of America, formed in accordance with the new Constitution. Regarding human rights and freedom, what all can you find in Declaration of American Independence? All are equal. Everyone has certain rights. To achieve rights, establish governments with the approval of those who rule. The people have the power to change or abolish the government. Prepare a flow chart illustrating the various events that led to the formation of the United States of America. Mercantilist laws. Ideologies of thinkers. No taxation without representation. Boston Tea Party December 16, 1773. First Continental Congress 1774. Petition to the King of England. The Second Continental Congress 1775. George Washington, Chief of the Continental Army. Thomas Paine Declaration, Americans to break the ties with Britain. The Third Continental Congress 1776. Declaration of American Independence on July 4, 1776. England ratified the freedom of 13 colonies in 1783. Formation of the American Constitution. George Washington became the first President of the United States of America. The impact of American independence movement on later world history gave direction and motivation to the later freedom struggles and revolutions all over the world. Put forward the concept of republican form of government. Prepared the first written constitution. Contributed to the concept of federal system that ensured freedom and authority of states in the Union. The French Revolution. Causes. Autocratic rule. The luxurious and extravagant life of kings. The social and economic inequality. The French society was divided into 3 strata. They were known as the estates. First estate clergy. Held vast land. Collected the tax called tithe from farmers. Exempted from all taxes. Controlled higher positions in administrative and military service. Second estate nobility. Engaged in military service. Collect various tax from farmers. Made farmers work without wage. Exempted from all taxes. Led luxurious life. Held vast land. Third estate, the middle class, including traders, writers, lawyers, officials, teachers, and bankers, farmers, and craftsmen. No role in the administration. Paid land tax, namely taille, to the government. Low social status. Paid taxes to clergy and nobles. Ideologies of the thinkers. Voltaire ridiculed the exploitation of clergy. Promoted rational thinking, ideals of equality and humanism. Rousseau spelled out the importance of freedom with the statement, "Man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains." Declared that the people are the sovereign. Montesquieu encouraged democracy and the republic, suggested division of powers of the government into legislature, executive, and judiciary. The luxurious life and squander of the Bourbon kings, clergy, and lords, and the frequent wars they waged, along with the frequent spells of drought and crop failure, brought France to the brink of bankruptcy. The financial and military assistance given to American colonies in the American War of Independence also aggravated the financial crisis in France. To levy new taxes upon commoners, Louis XVI summoned the States General, the Legislative Assembly of the representatives from all the 3 estates, in 1789. Similar to the French society, the States General also had 3 estates. Traditionally, each estate would vote as a group and had 1 vote. As a result, the nobility and the clergy could always overrule the Third Estate. The first 2 estates argued for a state-wise single voting system. Third Estate, the Commons demanded individual vote for each member of all the 3 estates. While the arguments went on, the members of the Third Estate declared themselves as the National Assembly of France. They assembled in the tennis court nearby, and swore not to leave until they had framed a Constitution of France. This event is known as the Tennis Court Oath. July 14, 1789, revolutionaries stormed with the slogan "Liberty, Equality, and Fraternity," demolished the Bastille prison, the symbol of Bourbon monarchy. This event is considered as the commencement of the French Revolution. August 12, 1789, the National Assembly passed the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. October 1789, thousands of women marched from Paris to the Palace of Versailles with the slogan, "Give us bread." September 1792 The National Convention, formed as per the new constitution, proclaimed France as a republic. When France sneezes, the rest of Europe catches cold. Who said that? Why? The Austrian Chancellor Metternich said this about the influence of the French Revolution. Because the French Revolution spread the ideas of equality, liberty, and fraternity all over the world, and the rulers in Europe were afraid of it. Goals and influences of French Revolution. Liberty, equality, and fraternity were the aims of French Revolution. Influences. Stimulated all the later revolutions in the world. Ended the feudal system in Europe, and threatened the autocratic rulers. Proclaimed that nation is not merely a region, but the people. Contribute the concept of people's sovereignty. Led to the emergence of nationalism. Helped the growth of the middle class. Spread the ideas of equality, liberty, and fraternity. What are the provisions of the Declaration of Human Rights, which was passed by the National Assembly of France after the French Revolution? Men are born and remain free and equal rights. The aim of all political associations is the preservation of the natural and indivisible right of man. These rights are liberty, property, security, and resistance to oppression. The principle of all sovereignty resides essentially in the nation. Liberty consists in the freedom to do everything which injures no one else. Law can only prohibit such actions as are hurtful to society. What are the features of Napoleon Bonaparte's reign? Napoleon Bonaparte's autocratic rule in France for a short period from 1799 onwards. Features. In France, nationalism strengthened during the reign of Napoleon. One by one, he invaded the other European countries. The European countries feared that the reforms of Napoleon would spread all over Europe. Napoleon was defeated by the European alliance in the Battle of Waterloo and lost his power in 1815. Administrative reforms of Napoleon Bonaparte. Farmers were made the owners of land. Exercised states' control over the clergy. Formed sinking fund with the aim to avoid public debt. Established Bank of France to centralize finance. Constructed several roads for transportation. Prepared a new code of law by codifying the existing laws. Examine the reforms and policies of Napoleon and identify the ideologies of French Revolution reflected in them, the concepts of French Revolution, policies and reforms of Napoleon. Rise of the middle class. Exercised states' control over the clergy. Sinking fund. Established Bank of France. Constructed several roads for transportation. New code of law. End of feudalism. Farmers were made the owners of land. Exercised states' control over the clergy. Code of law. Nationalism. Development of transportation. Bank of France. Code of law. The Latin American Revolution. The Spanish and Portuguese colonized the Latin America to exploit the economic richness. Examine how the colonial rule affected the life of natives of Latin America. The Spanish and Portuguese propagated their language, religions, and customs. They built houses and churches in Spanish style. Several schools were established for imparting Spanish system of education. The Spanish farming methods and crops were introduced. New diseases spread from Europeans to the Latin Americans. Racial discrimination was enforced towards the natives in all walks of life. They looted the resources and wealth of the Latin American people, enslaved the natives to work. The revolutions led by José de San Martin, Francisco Miranda, and Simon Bolívar etc. lead Latin American countries to be independent. The Russian Revolution. Causes. Farmers and factory workers in Russia led a tragic life under the autocracy of the Tsar emperors who ruled Russia. The low agricultural production affected the farmers' income. The landless farmers had to pay huge tax. Though Russia was rich in natural resources, their industrial production was meager. It was the foreigners who controlled majority of the industries that existed there. Ideologies of the thinkers. Writers like Maxim Gorky, Leo Tolstoy, Ivan Turgenev, and Anton Chekhov depicted the plight of the workers and farmers in their works. The Marxist ideologies formulated by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels stirred the workers. They called for establishing the supremacy of the workers instead of that by the capitalists. Trade unions were formed to find remedies for the plight of the workers. Based on the Marxist ideologies, the Social Democratic Workers' Party was formed. Later, this party was split into the Mensheviks minority and the Bolsheviks majority. The main leaders of the Bolsheviks were Lenin and Trotsky. Alexander Kerensky led the Mensheviks. The crisis reached its worst when Russia was defeated in the Russia-Japan War in 1905. The workers organized a huge march at Petrograd on January 9, 1905 demanding political rights and economic reforms. The march was fired at by the soldiers and hundreds of demonstrators were massacred. This event is known as the Bloody Sunday. February Revolution. Analyze the circumstances that led to form a provisional government in Russia. Workers' organizations called the Soviets were formed all over Russia to conduct strikes. When the strikes gained massive strength, the emperor was compelled to form a legislative assembly called Duma. Ignoring the Marxism protest from Duma, Nicholas II, the then Tsar, decided to participate in the First World War Social Democratic Workers' Party. A lot of Russian soldiers founded by Karl Marx and were killed in this war. Food shortage became severe by 1917. Thousands of women marched along the streets of Petrograd on March 8, 1917, clamoring for bread. The workers organized protest march in Petrograd. Though the soldiers clashed with the demonstrators in the beginning, later they joined the workers. It was the tragic experience during the First World War that induced them to do so. The workers captured Petrograd and Nicholas II was thrown out of power. A provisional government was formed under Alexander Kerensky, the Menshevik leader. This revolution that took place in March came to be known as the February Revolution. October Revolution. Discuss the role of the October Revolution in establishing the proletariat government in Russia. A group of Soviets did not approve of the provisional government. Vladimir Lenin, who had been in Switzerland, came to Russia and strongly opposed the provisional government. He argued that the entire power should be transferred to the Soviets if they were to realize the aims of the revolution. The Bolsheviks and the Soviets supported him. They propagated that only proletarians' workers' government could eradicate centuries-old economic backwardness and inequality. In October 1917, the Bolsheviks organized an armed rebellion against the provisional government. Kerensky fled from the country and Russia came under the control of the Bolsheviks. This event, through which the Bolsheviks attained power, is known as the October Revolution as per Russian calendar. Results of Russian Revolution. Russia withdrew from the First World War. Seized out the land and distributed among the peasants. Gave importance to public sector. Introduced centralized planning. Achieved develops in the field of science, technology, and economy. New constitution came to force in 1924. Union of Soviet Socialist Republic was formed by consolidating different Soviet republics. Spread the socialist ideas all over the world. The Chinese Revolution. What are the tactics or strategies adopted by foreigners to dominate China? Opium trade. The Europeans exported opium to China and traded it there, enslaving its people economically and mentally. Open door policy. The open door policy is a strategy adopted by the United States to gain trade rights in China. Accordingly, the United States argued that all countries have equal rights and opportunities in Chinese markers. Causes of the Chinese Revolution. The Manchu dynasty, which ruled China, was in favored foreign intervention and domination, which led to the Chinese Revolution. The earliest revolts against the Manchu dynasty were known as the Boxer Rebellion. It was called because the rebels accepted the boxer's fist as their emblem. The First Chinese Revolution, led by Dr. Sun Yat Sr., in 1911, another revolution took place under the leadership of Dr. Sun Yat-sen against the Manchu dynasty. This ended monarchy in China. After the revolution, Kuomintang Party established a republican government in southern China. Under the leadership of Sun Yat Sr., he gave importance to ideologies like nationalism, democracy, and socialism. He decided to nullify the unjust treaties signed with the foreign countries. The Kuomintang Republic adopted measures for the progress of agriculture and industry. China received assistance from Russia in various fields and the Chinese Communist Party was formed. Following the death of Dr. Sun Yat-sen, the Kuomintang Party is headed by Chiang Kai-shek. Explain the role played by Mao Zedong to make China a people's republic. Chiang Kai-shek ascertained military autocracy in China. He gave opportunity for foreign powers including America to freely interfere in China. Cooperation with communists was terminated. Coal and iron industries, banking, and foreign trade were all controlled by foreign countries. The communists who opposed Chiang Kai-shek's policies were brutally suppressed. At this time Mao Zedong, who had emerged as the leader of the Communist Party, began a journey. Formed Jiangxi in South China in 1934. This journey, which covers a distance of about 12,000 kilometers, is known as the Long March. The adventurous trip ended at Yan'an in northwestern China. Throughout the journey they seized out agricultural land and villages from lords and distributed them among the farmers. The Red Army led by Mao Zedong captured the center of Kuomintang rule. Mao Zedong and the Communist Party became the symbol of struggle of the Chinese against foreign power. Chiang Kai-shek had to seek political asylum in Taiwan. China became the People's Republic of China on October 1, 1949 under the leadership of Mao Zedong.